so much for coming to listen to this podcast, The Voice of Job Seekers. Welcome. We thank you very much. As we do here, we try to hack the job search process. Feel free to engage the show notes that are on iTunes and also at thevoiceofjobseekers.com. Today, I have my friend Hannah Morgan back with us. Not only she has one of the largest career sites in the world, but she's also a U.S. News and World Report contributor with a verified account with like 4 million gazillion followers. Well, probably not that many. Welcome back, Hannah. Thanks for joining me again.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much for having me. It's fun to be here with you again.
Yes. And as we were talking before, as I was telling Hannah, talking with her and like Melissa Cooley and Mark Miller and some of the others, we get to catching up and then we forget we have a show to record. And that's the whole purpose I have them on the show. So let's jump right into it. Your post on U.S. News last year, and I'll link it in the show notes, is your job search not working. I see that people are seeing the articles. They're looking at the advice. They say that they're applying the advice, but it's sort of like their desire to have passive income. They want something to work with them or work for them instead of working with the strategies. And maybe you could talk about, in your thinking and giving the advice and how important it is to really monitor and strategize to see if it's working. And it may or may not be right for you.
Yeah, I think that's such a, that's why you do what you do and I would do this is why we're doing what we're doing,
right,
is to try and help shift this thinking of job seekers. There is no easy button. If it were as easy, if finding a job, getting a new job, were as easy as just submitting a resume online, getting an interview, and getting hired, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, right?
Right.
And it's been my mission since 2009, and really actually before that, but the terrible crash where we saw thousands of people losing their jobs, and most of them were ill-prepared, never done a job search before, didn't know what it was about. So it's been my job ever since then to really be an advocate for job seekers and to help people understand that they own this. I don't want anyone to feel like they're a victim of the process. Nobody's a victim.
Right.
My favorite quote ever is Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent."
Yes.
Right? So we can't give employers the power to feel superior, inferior to employers. We own this process. There are parts of it that we can control, and we can make a difference. And the more we feel empowered by what we're doing, the better we are. So when you're just applying jobs online, you feel like you're a victim. I can't do anything. I don't have any control. We're complaining about no one's getting back to me, or they're discriminating against me because I'm overqualified, or I'm too old, or I don't have enough experience. All of that sucks, and it's really not working. So I want to empower people to look at this process like they are in control of it, right? And being more, quote unquote, proactive. So yes, we're going to use the job boards. It's an easy thing to do, but we fall into this trap of applying to a lot of jobs and not taking the time to do it right. Right? And doing it right means taking time with each job posting to make sure that you've done the right things. And oh, by the way, do you understand how applicant tracking systems work? Like there's technology that's screening your resume, and if you don't understand how that's working and how it's screening your resume, you're not going to write a good document. So at the end of the day, you own the process. And if you are not hearing back from an employer, why are you waiting? Right. It's your job to get an answer. You want that answer, go get the answer. Follow up. Every time you've applied for a job, it's up to you to follow up and to take the steps necessary to get the resolution, to get closure, to get an update from them. They are just too busy, and I don't want to defend them, but it's the reality. They're too busy, and they're not going to follow up with everybody, no matter where you are in the process.
Yeah. If you don't engage people during, let's say you've been a month in your job search, if you haven't talked to people, if you're not making it a habit to talk to people, you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
It's just really that serious. And I think one of the faults, honestly, in our industry, is at times there are people who talk about the applicant tracking system like it's a science, when really the bottom line is, in my opinion, is meant to exclude you.
Yeah.
It's meant to exclude you. It's not meant to include you or to fish for anything. They're excluding the ones who are not complying with or not making it possible for it to detect that you have the right skills and qualifications gathered in one document. That's it. That's
Right.
all it is.
So you know, and I know what everybody needs to do before they apply for a job online, right?
Right.
You got to talk to somebody who works inside the company.
Well, not only you got to get, but use that information as for lack of a better word, intelligence. Use it
Hmm.
for intelligence, not just to say that you talked to someone. Use it, filter it out through your resume, filter it out through your interview strategy. Use it to gain other ways to talk to other people within the company. Just don't be satisfied with one. Try to talk to several if you possibly can. I know sometimes there are gatekeepers that don't allow it, but there are tricks of the trade to use it, and you can read all about it. There are plenty of articles that you've written, I've written, find way to network your way into talking to people who are in the companies you want to work for. But ultimately, if you're not talking to someone, if there's nobody you're connecting with, you're doing it wrong.
You are doing it wrong. And there's plenty of research. Companies have been surveyed and they have said, we prefer to hire referred candidates.
Hmm.
And they're tracking the source of the people that they end up hiring and interviewing. And people who are referred candidates actually get interviewed more and actually get hired at greater rates than those people that have no contact with the company.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer. The problem is, and this is why job seekers aren't doing it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to
It's
find
hard.
somebody, and then, oh gosh, what do I talk to them about? And so it's much easier just to hit the easy button and apply online. So I always say to job seekers, whenever I'm writing, whatever you do, take the harder route. Whatever is harder for you to do, I guarantee you the benefits will be there.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people can do practically is to try to get in groups of other job seekers,
Hmm.
which is one of your points.
Yeah.
Is don't do it alone. You don't have to
Right.
do it alone. Uh,
There's so many reasons for that, right, Mark?
sure, right.
So it's not only a morale booster or a confidence booster. You learn from other people's mistakes
Hmm.
and experiences through the job search process. You actually can network with these people. They're more empathetic and sympathetic and more likely to help give you names that you might not be able to get otherwise. I've been leading the job search groups of people who've been out of work for a long time, and the minute they come into these job search networking groups, they're like, oh my gosh, I've been sitting in my office by myself for the past 3 months. I wish I had met these people sooner. I would be so much further ahead in my job search.
Sure, sure. And I too am kind of changing the scope of the way I approach it. Instead of doing the onesies coaching, it's better to do the coaching in groups, because I think people are motivated when there are people like them, who have, even if they have varied backgrounds, that they hear the same problems no matter where they are, that they
Right.
run across the different spectrums, and they get energized by the camaraderie and for the fact
Absolutely.
that they have an extended network of people that can reach a whole lot further than if they were just trying to do it by themselves.
That support is critical.
Yeah.
It's emotional. Because so much of what job search is an emotional game, right? We
Yes.
talk ourselves out of things, we talk ourselves into things, and having people in that group to support you in whatever way you need, advice, information, or just morale, is invaluable.
Yeah, I just published a podcast last week, and I did it by myself, funny enough. But your emotions are going to range from sad to happy to energized to demotivation constantly. And sometimes they could run within the same hour. Because I know I've been there once upon a time where I had nothing. And one moment I felt great, and then the next moment I'm ready to tear my hair out because of it just, the dynamic is there for you to have um, for you to be depressed. It is
Hmm.
very easy to fall into some emotions that you can't control. That's why it's better to gain some reality by being amongst other people that are doing it with you and feel the same way you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that job seekers have to shift in what they do is to, rather than just searching the job boards, right, which is not
Yeah,
even a
we
real
know it
indication of
sucks.
what's going on.
Right.
It's to be more proactive and identify 20, 30, whatever, minimally 20, maybe 40 companies that could potentially hire them for the work that they do. We
Hmm.
call this target lists, and I've been talking about this for the past 15, 20 years.
Hmm.
It's now becoming more mainstream, and I think slowly but surely job seekers are beginning to get the idea behind this. It's lead generation 101, right?
Hmm.
You don't go spray and pray your product to everybody. You have a specific target audience that you're gearing your pitch, your product, your services to.
Hmm.
So as a job seeker, that same logic applies, and it makes it so much more it makes it easier to keep on track, and to stay focused and to have a mission and to drive yourself forward. So if you identify 20 companies that could potentially hire you because, oh, maybe you know somebody who works there and you know they hire those people, or they've posted jobs in the past,
Right.
or they're just a cool company that you'd love to work for, now your efforts day to day, going back to what you say, you're talking to people, find as many people inside these 20 companies to have conversations with, to learn from them how they like working there, what are the kinds of things that they do on a day-to-day basis, how they got their foot in the door there. I mean, there's so much to talk about and learn from when you have a specific target, and that allows you to focus everything that you do from that point forward, your cover letter, your resume, all of that stuff.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that I've seen articles about, and I think is true, that really there are no rules on how you gain those leads. So don't think that you have to only gain it one way. And we talked numerous times about using social media to gain that intel. But a lot of times it doesn't hurt to even place a cold call every now and then, just to really see if, and maybe even you may have to use some intelligence from elsewhere to see who might be the best person to place that cold call to. But I don't think cold calling is even out. I know some people hate it as a strategy, but I think it still works into to this day.
You know what? Let's combine cold calling with, meeting somebody online and then taking it to the next level.
Yeah,
It's so calling in itself is hard for most people to do,
yeah, it
right?
is.
And if I don't know somebody, but I've had some sort of an exchange with them online, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, LinkedIn through groups, Twitter open, wherever, Instagram, if I've liked something, if I have had my name in front of them before, we've had some sort of an exchange, whether it's a like or it actually spoken online, it's so much easier for me to reach out and have that real conversation. Like, because then it's not necessarily a cold call. They know they've seen my name. They
Right.
may not remember it, but there's been something going on before that. So I think that, cold calls are tough, but they, as a last resort, you could do them. I would always try finding that person online first and having some sort of an exchange
Yeah.
with them on Twitter or in a LinkedIn group first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think people, but people are open to it.
Yeah.
I've had, using LinkedIn to first make that contact, or even if there was just a small exchange. I've had people call me over the years, and it's a little bit different. They're not seeking a job, but they want information, or they at least want to know that you're real, and that they appreciate the fact that you're writing to help them. I think there's a principle there that, if you're putting content out there, if you're putting original thoughts out there, that, you don't always have to be the hunter. You can be the hunted.
Absolutely. And isn't that it? The pull
Yes,
marketing strategy.
sure.
If you put original thoughts out there, you're going to attract some people for various reasons, but that's a great strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a valid one, but it's hard for a lot of people to you know kind of make that a reality for them because it's hard to meet new people, and I think the mindset that strangers are out to take over your world is despite the political climate that we have for today, not everybody's the enemy, and even people who may even appear to be the enemy are not really your enemies. I'm not saying be more trusting. I think you need to use the filters and judgment that you have. But all that to say is that there are more people who are willing to help you and to give you information than you think.
Yeah.
Throughout all processes, even from the entry point of getting an interview to even salary negotiation. There are people out there who are willing to be more helpful than you think. And why not test it?
Absolutely. We were talking about networking, and I have to quote Mark Miller because in one of the articles that he recently shared, he used an acronym AIR. And
Yes. All right.
and I have been using that with all the clients I've been speaking with because I think that it's so valuable in making that shift and understanding what networking really is.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, ask for AIR. And it's so easy to say that and so easy to remember. AIR is when you are asking for an informational meeting, you're asking for advice,
Mm-hmm.
information, or resources or
Yeah.
references.
Yeah.
Eh, Duh, like that's what networking is all about,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so all you're doing is asking for air. I think that's invaluable.
Yeah. I think when people make things into a task, it becomes much harder. Just as some practical networking advice, try to get one thing from one person, then try to get one thing from another person. You know where I'm going with this. To ask the world from one person is overwhelming. But if you know how to lead in a conversation and with some authenticity and maybe a little bit of gumption, you'd be surprised what people be willing to give. When you're networking, and we're just even talking about some initial contact on a Twitter feed or a Twitter conversation. People are there. People understand the culture is I'm not just there to take. I'm also there to give.
Yeah. And you know what? The fact that anybody is on Twitter or they're on LinkedIn, there's some level at which they are willing to give back. That's
Yep.
why they're there.
Yep. Yep. So, and also be the resource that you want people to be, and that
Yep.
also helps. That comes back really well. I think one of the things that you and I have talked about before is the idea of approaching things as a consultant.
Yeah.
And I know I've written about it, uh, and you have as well, is that there is a consultant approach that really works. And but first, if you're not putting a personal branding effort out there, that may suggest that you look at things as a consultant, you might be missing an opportunity.
Absolutely. Right. So you've got to be, and I think personal branding often is difficult for people who aren't really confident about what differentiates them in the
Hmm.
marketplace. But when you have that, when you know what makes you different, when you know what you love to do, and love is a squishy, warm, fuzzy
Sure.
term, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
when you know what your strengths really are, not things you can do, but things that you enjoy doing and you do well,
Hmm.
like that, if you pay attention to that, that's your area of being an expert or being able to act as a consultant during the interview. So the questions that you ask are to understand what problems the company is having around the things that you're really good at doing and that you enjoy doing. So asking questions about processes that you have fixed in the past and you love fixing, or about how they are building relationships if you love being a business developer.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions around the things that you love to do and see how they're doing it. Listen, the interviewer company are asking you behavioral questions like, give me an example of a time when you solved a problem, or tell me about one of your customer relationships that didn't go well. Why we can ask those same sort of open-ended questions in a nice, friendly way of the interviewer. Help me understand how your accounting process works when you've got 15 different departments that are contributing information. Is there a backlog? Is there a funnel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one strategy that people can really employ is not only just ask for. Sometimes we have to be a little bit bolder to get the next step or get to the next step. Is part of the consultant, you also want to go and see if you can check out the environment. Is really get some physical feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to, you will see much more than you think you would see than just having a 10-minute coffee with someone. I mean, the idea that you can go to office, I mean, you may need to be mindful of time and things like that, and that comes down to a lot of times the relationship and the conversation that you have. Instead of making it more like an interrogation, I think you can really make a lot more leeway that way. But try to see what the physical environment is like. That means you got to go to the place, dress nice. You're not going there for an interview. You're going there to if you're going to have a consultant mindset, you want to see what kind of intelligence that you're going to gain from the actual place, and look at the people and look at the pictures and look at how the cubicles are set up, and sometimes that's where the greatest energy to give might be there for you, rather than just to come and suck up somebody's time.
Absolutely. I think that's great to observe. I worked for a company once, and I was on site doing some work for them. And when I would walk from the parking lot to the front door, I would walk along all these employees who work there,
Mm-hmm.
and they looked like they were being dragged into that office.
Yeah.
They would take little tiny steps. They're hunched over.
Mm-hmm.
They did not look excited to go work there. Meanwhile, I'm, pretty much jogging in. Couldn't wait to get there because I had a different role than they did. But, that's really indicative too, to sort of scout that out. It gives you a good sense of what's the morale of the company.
Yeah.
I think another question, there's so many questions that we can ask as a consultant, as an interviewer, but one of the ways you can really get a better sense of, okay, who is this manager? What are they liking? What do they expect me to do in the role is, what do you expect the person in this role to be able to accomplish in the first 30, 60, 90 days?
Yes. Great question. Always.
So if you're asking that question, you're going to learn a lot either about what they have defined, what they haven't defined. Are their expectations realistic? So there's a lot to learn from asking smart questions and really putting on that consultant's mindset, that consultant hat, and like, okay, what problems can I help this company solve in this role?
Yeah. I think people are again, and we've said it many times, people search in crisis mode.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than in a proactive mode. And I think some of that's beginning to shift now. People are looking at that they're tired of being in the role that they're in, that they're looking for a new one, but they know that it's better to look from being employed than not being employed. That's still a reality. It's still a bias as well, but it's still a reality. That taking a little bit more time to understand what's new out in the market, that you have been out in 2 or 3 years now, and not just 10 or 20, that you're going to be able to have you'll be able to approach more like a consultant, because you can now compare what you're doing now and what everybody else is doing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely a psychological strength to having a job and looking for a new job.
Absolutely. Um, Probably the only other thing I would say about the article, and I hope that people would be, is that you even say, and I take this directly from the article, throughout the process, think like a hiring manager.
Yeah.
And you know, it, I've been in that position before, where it's not easy, it's not tough, and in fact, I would say is that most people will come across more unskilled interviewers and hiring managers than they would skilled hiring managers. But I think, having said that, is that people ultimately need to understand how they need to bring more solutions than pollution in their thinking.
That's a great one. Absolutely, right? Hiring, we know, is a painful process for everybody involved. The
Hmm.
hiring manager, the person who's got the job, all of that. They don't have the time, energy, just as a time suck. And then there's that risk, right? So whatever you can do as a candidate for a job to make the process more comfortable, not only for you, but for the hiring manager as well, that's great. So if you understand what what that hiring manager has to go through to make this fill this job, it will make you more empathetic.
Yeah.
It's taking them an awful lot of time. The decision is not an easy one. They have fear and anxiety over hiring the wrong person. So, what can you do as a candidate to remove some of these obstacles from the hiring manager's mind? And they probably have given you hints throughout the interviewing process, or you've asked questions to help you understand what their fears are, where their anxiety is. They tell you things like, oh, you'll be the fourth person in this role in the last year. That means that people haven't stuck around, right? So, what can you do to ensure that you're the kind of candidate that would stick around? And sort of think in those terms. So always be empathetic to that hiring manager. They are not the enemy. They really are just trying to do their best to fill this role with the most qualified person who's going to fit on the team,
Yeah.
without a lot of supervision, without a lot of headaches and drama. Right? They just want somebody who can fit in and start doing the work.
Yeah. I think when people are, I think many people don't ask the right questions during the process to be able to gain what they need to know about what the company wants or what the department wants. And a lot of times, asking the right questions and even having the right approach, again, having a conversation as opposed to being interrogated, makes all the big difference in the world. And the conversation allows you, and allows the interviewer to kind of give you a little sneak preview behind the curtain as to what it's like to work for the company, and by that you can assert yourself and assert the solutions that are going to be needed. But you have to take that small window that's given in that conversation, otherwise, you're wasting their time and yours.
Absolutely. And so it's important that the job seeker remembers that this is a mutual conversation. The employer, wants to learn about you, but you, as the job seeker, must learn about them too. So it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And if the job seeker is feeling inferior, they're feeling like they're being interrogated, they have to, if they want to make that shift, to make it a dialogue.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which
And
kind of
if that can't happen, then maybe it's not a good fit anyway, right?
Right, right. Which kind of brings us to a recent article you wrote on careersherpa.net. And I'm sure that there's more to come, because there's a lot to be said about having an online portfolio and and yes, even having a website of your own. And I think that's where some of that, where you can bridge the distance between somebody who doesn't have an online portfolio. I mean, a portfolio, not just a static site where people come and say, "Oh, he has a site." People are looking for more insight. Employers are looking for more insight. They really
They
want to
are.
know if you can be the solution. And
Yeah.
if you're using whatever you find online, press articles, blogs, Glassdoor, any of those kind of tools to gain insight and be able to make that real to the employer, you are eliminating a discussion that you may not have to have when it comes to interviewing. You can really get down to it. I think a lot of times that in interviews people don't get down to it because they don't do enough research, but they're unsure of what the solution that they can offer to an employer.
Absolutely, yeah. That there's so many great nuggets that you provided. Um, it is having an online portfolio or personal website, whatever we want to call it. The idea is basically the same: is that you are showcasing and you control that message. You are showcasing the best of the best that you have to offer. And we talked earlier in this about knowing what value you offer or what differentiates you, something that makes you more human, right?
Hmm.
The reason we have these interviews is so that that employer can go from, okay, what is this piece of paper and who is this person, to bridge that gap. But having a personal portfolio or a personal website, even a decent LinkedIn profile, all of that can go a long way to bridge that gap so that we can get down to the real meat of the conversation about the true thing, the true deliverables that you'll be able to bring to the organization, rather than spending, the first part of anything getting to know somebody. A lot of that is already out of the way. And,
Yeah.
and companies really want that right fit, right?
Right.
And if I can't feel your personality through any of your correspondence, through anything that you put on there, and somebody else has clearly showed how they have solved problems before and talked about some of their personality traits and quirks and whatever, and that intrigues me and I like that and I'm okay with that, I'm going to go with the known versus the unknown.
Right. Absolutely. In that study, in your post, you cover the study that was done by Hoover.com.
Yeah,
And
the hover, and you are cited in that as
yeah,
well. And
yeah, I was.
yeah,
Um,
you were, and you agree, right?
yeah.
But I think the most important stat out of this whole study that they did
Hmm.
was that when an employer arrives at a portfolio site,
Hmm.
they oh wait, no, they will click through, right?
Right.
That the vast majority of respondents, 86%, either say they agree or strongly agree that they will visit a portfolio when given the option.
Right. Right.
That's almost everybody.
Right. Exactly. And you control what's on that site. If you
Absolutely.
have something under your name or something that's designated to be your destination for people to come to see what you do professionally, you completely control from head to toe on how it looks, how it's presented, what they see, what they don't see, what's important to you, and ultimately, people will be more interested if what's important to you is important to them as well. There's no other place on the web. I mean, LinkedIn. Um, we used to love LinkedIn once upon a time, but even LinkedIn, as you begin to see, there are features that are there aren't aren't going to be as useful. Even writing a post on LinkedIn doesn't even get announced to your network anymore like it used to. I think it just goes through your feed, and it may or may not be picked up by Pulse, which it used to be almost a knock-in. If you get a few likes on it, it'll go into Pulse. That's not even guaranteed. So
Right.
your visibility is pretty important if you want to add an element to your job search to be found, to be discovered. You got to have a place that you control. And that one place is your own personal website. I think it's a must these days.
Absolutely. And people say, well, what would I even put on there? The options are endless,
Yes.
right? Samples of your work. You have the chance to write a bio and embed pictures of things that are cool. You can link to other social media outlets that you want people to discover. You can post letters of recommendation. You got that letter of
Yes.
recommendation that
Yes.
you don't know what to
Yes.
do with. You got that award and it's on your wall or it's in a desk drawer. Snap a photo of that and put that up there. You've
Yes.
worked on special projects that don't really fit into the confines of what LinkedIn gives you to do. You can build this and make this look and feel whatever way you want. And you write it for the future, the job that you want,
Yes.
not where you've been.
Yes. I think one of the mistakes that people in their thinking that all these different places are going to be impressive for employers, that being that we know that these things could disappear at any point, like we talked about branded.me earlier, which was there was a big marketing push earlier last year, probably from 2014 till about early 2016, about this was the place where if you don't, it takes a few minutes to build and then it goes away. It's no longer there. It's no longer branded.me. It's remote.co. And it's something entirely different. Now, somebody who's bought into that, who's put time into it, has lost their content.
Yeah. And the same is true. Same thing is sort of happening with LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
The, it's not that we're going to not be there, but when you put all of your focus and energy into one platform that you do not own, and the owner of that platform decides to change it for whatever reason, you lose it. So, the one thing that you will always have control over is your own website. You
Yep.
own the domain, you own the content, you can change it whenever you want, and it will always be yours. So
Yes.
that's the smartest long-term investment.
Yes. And just think that 1 month of paying for a LinkedIn membership is more than owning your domain
For
and
a
having your
year,
own say for a year.
yeah.
I mean, let that sit on your mind for a little bit. If you're paying for LinkedIn and they're taking away features, you can use 1 month of that payment, not even the full month of that payment, to produce a website that probably doesn't even take neither the time or money to even produce some type of content. It could be video. You don't even have to write a little caption for SEO and put a video on how to do something or how to think about something or giving your opinion about something. But having said that too, I think as well is it's important for people now to have their original thoughts to appear on the web. It's time. We've shared on Facebook, we shared on Twitter, we share and like on LinkedIn. And what is it that you think that should be a trend in your industry? Or what do you think industry trends are? Are they going the right way? Yes or no? It's time to risk something in the game. It is.
Absolutely. Take a stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, anything else we should think about this study that you've seen? I think you brought out the main point is that people will click through and employers will look at it. But I think
Yeah.
too, quality also has to be is an issue.
Quality is a big issue.
And it's a double-edged sword. Putting yourself out there is one thing, but unfortunately, you don't get brownie points for just having something out there.
I know. Somebody a couple of years ago said, "Hey, take a look at my online portfolio." And the person was an engineer. I couldn't understand how the website worked and where I was supposed to go. It was a lot of his original thinking, but the way it was laid out made no sense. So I think that following some basic design rules. Less is more, right?
Right.
Make it very simple. Do not confuse the reader, the viewer. And, there's plenty of great articles out there on, what pages does a website have to have. It's not a must have, but it's just some basic ideas. You need a bio page. You need, a couple of different pages of this website. Even just one page is clearly organized. Quality is important. And then once you've created it, get feedback from people that you value and a variety of people. And then put that LinkedIn, put your personal profile link, the URL in your email signature, in your on top of your resume, and in your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. Let people find it. Encourage
absolutely.
people to find it, not for the people to find it by accident. It's not a just in case. It should be the lead to who you are and the value you offer. Yeah,
you know where else we should put it, Mark? I want people to put it in their link in their Facebook bio too.
Yes. I think that's critical.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation which we can have one day. Like I said, like I shared with you before, I don't know if Facebook is looking more employer friendly to me than LinkedIn is, but we'll go there for another time.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you got anything coming up that the people should know that we should look out for from you?
I wish I did. I recently wrote an article on pay scale and their negotiating guide, which I was really happy to contribute to.
Yeah, I saw that. That was awesome.
But other than that, I'm not. There aren't any secrets I'm holding back. I just don't think I have anything that I'm working on right now.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not missing any books or anything that you have coming out.
Not yet.
Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you, Hannah, so much. Always great spending time with you. And always love having the conversation with you. And thank you all very much for listening to the show. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at mark@thevoiceofjobseekers.com. Or you can go to thevoiceofjobseekers.com, press on the send voicemail button on your right-hand side, and you can leave me a message if you like. In the meantime, thanks very much for joining us here, and we'll see you next time on The Voice of Job Seekers.